Hello, this is Levi Wampler with MMA Striking Coach Association. Today we are speaking with John Belkewitch. He is a circular strength training head coach, a TAC-FIT field instructor, a circular strength training kettlebell specialist, and an NSCA certified strength and conditioning specialist. How are you doing today, John?
I'm all right. How are you, man?
Doing real good today. I forgot to mention your website there. It's what is that? day1fitnesssolutions.com.
That's correct.
So if you guys want to learn any more about him, that's a good place to go. Now, could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in fitness?
Sure. My start in fitness really was born out of my own pain and injuries. I've always been a pretty active guy ever since I was a kid. Performed in a lot of recreational leagues, baseball, basketball, football, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the martial arts in my early teens that really turned the path. First thing I wanted to do when I started in the arts was own my own studio.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon after that, I got into bodybuilding, and just injuries from bodybuilding, from martial arts, kind of took their toll. And it basically came to a point that it just hurt to be active. Mm-hmm. So I stopped being active. I found myself at a desk job, for 10 hours a day, and all I did was exacerbate the injuries. I had some pretty bad wrist injuries from bodybuilding, a really severe neck injury from I have no idea what, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I think it really was just something functional. And so here I am after being into martial arts for a number of years and very active, unable and with no desire to do anything. And it wasn't really until I got back into the martial arts that I really kind of set my mind to do something in the fitness. I was turned on to a program of Scott Simons, who's a international Hall of Fame coach in martial arts. A program of his called Warrior Wellness, and it was all based on movement and basic joint mobility. And after about 2 days of doing that program, I had relief from my neck that I hadn't had in about 10 years. And so it made me look at things very differently. Now, meanwhile, I'm a guy who I was a biology major in college for a number of years before I decided to switch. So a good deal of my friends are fitness professionals and health professionals. Mm-hmm. I've been to chiropractors, manual therapists, physical therapists, massage therapists, orthopedics for my neck injury. And, I would get immediate relief, but it was fleeting. I never had anything that I could kind of call my own in regards to techniques to mitigate my pain, and kind of take care of myself at home. So there were days where I just couldn't get out in the morning. I couldn't lift my head off the pillow. So once I got into Scott's mobility material, it literally changed my life. From there, I was able to be more active. I really took a proactive approach to, really owning your own fitness and trying to take some of the things that I then started to learn to help heal my body, from all the injuries from rolling around the mat, tournaments, all that kind of stuff, and really kind of give it to other people. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. My journey kind of came from being very, very active to hardly able to get out of bed because of the pain, to finding a way on my own eventually to kind of take care of some of the issues. So, and that's the mission right now, is to kind of give it back to a lot of people. I mean, my most favorite type of person to work with is the martial artist, because if I knew now what I knew then when I started training, things would be very, very different.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I can't meet very many high-level martial artists that don't know how to heal a whole plethora of injuries just because they've dealt with it,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a number of friends now as we're getting older, and they've been into arts as long as me or longer than me, and they're pretty beat up. Yeah. I mean, they're banged up. So now the stuff that I'm coming back with now, I'm overwhelmed and more than happy to bring them this type of material to complement their training, so that they can get back on the mat and get higher intensity, more full force than they've been in years, because they've just been more and more inactive from the arts or whatever their activity's been. But for my circle of close friends, a lot of them are big time martial artists, so to be able to work with them and kind of give them things to help them get back to their game is just great.
Now, What would you recommend for fighters when you're speaking to them for improving their striking ability? Do you have anything like a program or a movement or just a piece of equipment, anything you could share with us?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I mean, this is
right.
My favorite type of content to talk about. But probably what I'd say is the most important thing, and this is just what I found from my personal experience and now with a lot of the guys that I'm working with, is mobility. I mean, it's the thing that got me back in the game. And when you really start to understand mobility, and I'll go into it a little bit deeper in a second, but
sure.
in movement on a deeper level, you really see how it's the foundation for everything we do, whether it's just, variances in your martial art, whether it's a striking art like a taekwondo, or something more art style and hit heavy like some of the Chinese arts and some of the Okinawan arts, or whether it's grappling or whatever, or more combat, Krav Maga. All of it really, if you look underneath the technique, it's biomechanic and movement. And unfortunately, not everybody teaches it from that standpoint. They'll teach the technique from the standpoint of, okay, this is the technique, this is the thing, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and you never really understand it deeper than that, right? Okay. So the mobility, what I do with a lot of guys that I work with now, we go back to the basics with mobility. Now, mobility exists on a continuum. There's different levels of mobility, just like anything else, when you're doing your striking and whatnot, there's different levels to the technique, depending on where your experience is at. So the first thing that I would suggest people look into, again, whether you're a mixed martial artist or you're into combat arts or whatever your activity is to look at getting in daily mobility work, because it's low intensity enough where you can do it every single day, and it's not going to interfere with whatever your skill practice is, your conditioning is. But do it firstly from a health standpoint, right? So if we look at mobility from a health standpoint, it's all about recovering optimal ranges of motion in your joints, increasing a wash of synovial fluid to help aid in shock absorption and redirection, increasing the blood flow to various areas to help ship in nutritions and ship out toxins. Nutrition is such a huge topic no matter what the sport or activity. And you can have the cleanest diet in the world, but if you're not getting in the stuff to those joint structures and stripping out the bed, if you're going to throw in that clean diet, right? You're kind of fighting an uphill battle. If you look at mobility from a bit more of an esoteric perspective, something like an Ayurvedic medicine, opening up different areas of the body helps to free up chakra centers. From a Chinese medicine standpoint, you're freeing up channels for the chi to flow. Right now, we're kind of getting into a little bit more martial art mindset in a sense. Your breathing becomes freer, your energy levels increase, aches and pains. I can attest to that 100%. You start moving around with more grace, ease, and confidence. So automatically, just looking at mobility from a health standpoint strictly, without doing any extra practice on striking techniques, you'll see it carry over immediately. If for no other reason than you just feel better, you're starting to move smoother. Now, if we kind of take mobility practice up the ladder a bit, and with most of the martial artists that I work with here locally, this is stuff they really can sink their teeth into, because they can see now how the mobility from a health perspective applies to their art, right, to their skill base and to their sport, or to their combat style, whatever it may be. We're looking at mobility in the sense of applied mobility and reactive mobility, right? So the techniques that we use here get a bit different. So here, with applied mobility and reactive mobility, we're taking that those mobilities that we worked on from a health perspective, and we're looking to increase our proprioception, our sixth sense, the coordination and body unity. We're starting to apply sensitivity and psychology drills to the mix. So again, these tend to be of more interest to the fighter martial artist, but it all starts from the freestanding, basic, health-driven mobility. So, if I can use put it in a different light or another example, everybody's looking for more power, right? Everybody wants the devastating strikes and, looking to cause dysfunction in your opponent before he knows what's going on. And if you look at it from a bit of a crude standpoint, right, power, you've got a couple things that work into the mix of power. It's first in mass, or you look at energy, right? It's energy from gravity, energy from your body, energy from the ground, all those things apply into it. Then you've got speed, the element of speed. So looking at it now back from a speed standpoint, the better you can get at, or the sharper you can make your firing ability, right, from your brain to your brawn, if we're going to put it a bit crudely, the more your speed increases, the more power you'll have. So if you get better at your coordinated abilities between your body segments, through mobility drills or through a certain kinetic chain, which would be whatever your striking technique is that you're practicing at that time, if we can groove in that firing pattern deeper from understanding it from a segmented view first, we can then take it apart firstly through mobility and then put it back together through applied mobility and make your movements more fluid and sharp, again, without actually training your striking technique. By working on these mobility and applied mobility and reactive mobility drills. And all of this work towards better power comes from more slower introspective practice, which is, again, our basic mobility work. And what I'd like to do actually for you and for your readers, just so you guys kind of get more of a visual sense of what I'm talking about, I'll put up a link for some free video material for you guys.
Okay.
So if you go to bodyweightsolutions.com/fighter. Probably by the time this interview comes out, I'll have some stuff up there for you guys so you can actually see kind of what I'm referring to here, because it might be a little bit harder to grasp if you're not familiar with some of the mobility practices. It's maybe not as easy to get from just the interview itself. So I'd like to kind of give you some content so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So that's really one of the big things with regards to increasing striking without stepping on any toes and suggesting techniques. Because, again, a lot of the guys that I work with them from a conditioning or recovery or body awareness standpoint, and they still have their skill coaches, right? And even though I have a background in martial arts and I still do practice, I exactly... unless they really ask me to work on actual techniques and engagement and stuff like that. So I try to work on things that can help and can supplement it. And as an extension with the mobility, one of the baseline things in the mobility is there's three elements there that kind of make up the practice of mobility. Really, once you learn it, you'll find it makes up any practice, and you kind of look at your striking techniques a little bit different. And those elements are breathing, movement, and structure. So your ability to deliver a powerful or a more devastating striker technique, depends on the level of integration of those three things. So the more you can just practice those and work on integrating those, again, automatically there's carryover to your striking techniques without actually practicing the technique. So again, these are things that you can start to do in your spare time, that you can do without worrying about adding more stress or load or overtraining and that kind of stuff. By working to integrate your breathing, your structure, your movement, you also start to learn what we call selective tension, right? And this is huge in striking, at least from what I've found from my experience with my guys, is especially if we're talking about competition. Combat is one thing I'm sure you know as well as I. On the street, it's over before you knew it even began.
Sure.
When you're in the ring, it's a different story. The match can last quite a bit of time. So if you can learn to use only the amount of tension that you need and no more, you put yourself in better position to deliver more effective strikes as the match or as the game goes on. What happens is fatigue accumulates. So the more superfluous effort you use throughout a match, bout, or competition, again, that's going to add up, and eventually that does catch up with you. And that can mean the difference between a victory and a loss. For a guy, I also train a lot of tactical responders like police and firemen and corrections and stuff. For guys like that, if we're talking about selective tension or cumulative fatigue, that can mean the difference between life and death. So it's something that we take very seriously, and we make huge strides to focus on not just doing the thing. So again, if we're looking at a striking technique, not just being able to perform the technique, but to really own the technique, to understand it on such a deep level. You take the old adage that you can't really love somebody unless you love yourself. Well, from a technique standpoint, at least it's my opinion, you can't really control someone else, whether that control is working in on somebody, delivering a devastating blow, or just kind of taking control of their root or their structure. You can't really do that optimally unless you understand it within yourself first. And again, that's where the mobility practice is very internalized mobility practice, focusing on breathing, structure, and movement, working to recover your full range of motion, optimal range of motion in your joints, and then being able to work it through applied mobility, reactive mobility in competition. That's where that stuff really compounds over time. And again, where it can totally add to your strike game without actually giving you striking techniques to work on, or techniques that would compete with whatever your chosen style is, or whatever your coach is pounding into you right now. Right. So that's what, got to cut my rant short there, I guess, a bit. That's really the biggest thing that I look to impart upon martial artists and fighters when they come in and kind of start to work with me as we look at mobility.
That's really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing these videos you're talking about. Just learning how you talked about breaking everything down and reverse engineering every strike and developing your mobility to get stronger. That's a lot of good ideas there.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Reverse engineering. I mean, that's really the big thing. I just recently started giving workshops at my very first martial arts studio. I've been there about 10 years, and I just went back there. I still see a lot of the old guys and stuff like that, and it's a style that I haven't practiced for a bit. I've trained under a number of styles, and I haven't dabbled in this one in too long. But now I'm going back and I'm watching. I'll sit down in class a little bit and I'll watch them do things, and remember when I was trying to learn them, and again say, man, I wish I knew then what I know now in terms of how the body works, the physics and the biomechanics, and how really everything is based off of joint mobility. And so, just the ability to watch people move and spot and pick out what you would go over and say to them to help improve the technique without saying, here, no, your punch has to come this way. This is the line it has to travel, and this is how you have to parry. It's like, well, no, this is how the hips work, and this is how the shoulder works, and you see when you articulate this way. So just from a deeper understanding your body first before you try to understand the technique. Because when you have that, then the technique makes so much more sense, because it's just an expression of your body, really, is what it becomes. So yeah, reverse engineering is definitely a huge, huge concept here.
Right. You mentioned mistakes there. What would you say are some of the mistakes you think people make when they're designing, their own fitness programs?
Okay, that's a great question. So if it's someone going out on their own and doing it, at least from what I've found from a lot of people I've talked to, is they typically don't really have a good reason why they're working on a particular program. I mean, outside of the fact that, hey, I want to get in shape, or I just want to be healthier, or I want to look better without a shirt. Yeah. I mean, that's fine, that's cool. They're great motivations, but it still doesn't give you enough of a why behind what you're doing. So then from that sense, if we stem naturally from that, it's like if you're designing your own program, how can you really design your own program if you don't know what you want the program to do for you on a functional level, at least? Fat loss and putting on weight. I mean, that's actually pretty simple. That's not that hard to do. To do it in a healthy fashion, and to do it in a way that also supports your lifestyle, right, is a lot harder to do. So that's probably the biggest mistake, not really understanding why. And it's tough because you have to think about it, and it takes a little internal searching. Everybody likes to do that. But once you find that, it gives you so much more motivation, inspiration. Your program will keep you on your program longer once you set it up to do those things, because now you know that you're going to the gym or you're getting your workout in your own home for this particular reason, that, hey, it's going to help, increase my striking power, or, hey, it's going to help me to be able to play with kids on ground and play with the dog out in the park. And you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. So not really having that why is huge. And what happens too is you wind up spinning your wheels a lot. You wind up either doing the program because it looks cool or because it's the new thing. It's not like kettlebells are hot now. I love kettlebells. I work with kettlebells, but it seems that kind of will throw a kettlebell at the problem. And I'm doing kettlebells. It's one of the huge things opening up in a lot of martial arts gyms in my area is kettlebell programs. And I've checked out a few, and not all of them are great martial arts kettlebell programs, but they have kettlebells. And so that's the big thing. And so kettlebells, like I said, are great, but it's not just the tool. It's like, okay, what are we going to do with them, and why are we doing this? You want to save yourself time. You want the most effective and efficient workout you can get. And so to do some research, research for yourself, understand what you want to do, why you want to do it, and then kind of look out there, see what's out there, and see who can help you with that, or what program that exists kind of jives with what you're looking to do. It'll save you time and probably some of your health in the long run. So that's the biggest mistake, I say. Not knowing why.
That's good. So what programs are there out there for people to learn about doing, like you're saying, how to pick the proper exercises, how not to make these mistakes you're mentioning? Is there anything you know of?
Yeah, well, there's a number of programs. I'm partial to any circuit of strength training program just because that's a huge influence on my training now. I've actually got something coming out the first of the new year, the Bodyweight Basics program that irons everything out for you. It goes into why the program exists, who exactly it's for. There's modules for the actual physical work itself, and then there's mobility modules and recovery modules, and so it's kind of plug and play. Everything is set up there for you, and if it's something that jives with what you're looking for in terms of for fitness routine, then it's a no-brainer in the sense that you don't need to do any of the programming. The programming is done for you. But I also do kind of pride myself on trying to give instruction, especially via video, where it's tougher to, you're not there with the person. So it's not as effective as one-on-one training or even class or group training where you're there with an instructor in person. But try to give you instruction so that you're not just doing a movement, but you understand what's going on behind it and you can own it. And then by doing that, from there you'll eventually be able to kind of hopefully design your own programs in the same vein. So I would definitely recommend that, even though it's a Bodyweight Basics program. I have high-level athletes working on it just because they specialize at their sport or their art and can't do much of anything else at a high level if asked to, just because that's what they train to do. I mean, it's like your body only adapts specifically to whatever you train for. So the things that you haven't trained for, you're going to kind of almost feel like a new beginner a lot of times when trying to do them. But if you are of the athletic type, you'll adapt much quicker. But there's still something kind of there for everybody. Any of Scott Simon's fit programs would be phenomenal for that. And again, in a similar vein, those programs lay out preparation work, mobility work, actual stimulation work, which is the skill exercises, and then restoration work. So you've got the full gamut, and those programs, especially for MMA guys or strikers, are designed with a tactical mindset. So it's kind of right up your alley in that sense. So you can go to for my program, it would be bodyweightsolutions.com. For the TechFit program, you can go to the techfit.tv and check out the information on that. So those, I would say, would be two huge resources. I've also got a few mobility programs. One of them is called Into Flow, It's a health and longevity system. And then another really good one's called Ageless Mobility, and that combines yoga elements into the mix. We haven't talked about that, but yoga also is a great adjunct to any training, but especially martial artists.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned something a little bit about circular strength training. Could you explain what that is?
Yeah, circular strength training is a health and fitness system that was developed by Scott Simon. Again, a huge influence on my work. And it basically, there's a lot to it if we really, really break it down. But it's at its core, it's a health-first system. So when you look at training, any kind of training, we prioritize certain things. I was into bodybuilding for a long time. So physique or image was top priority, right? Because of it, I did a bunch of things and conducted my training and nutrition in ways that weren't right for my health. And I suffered it well. And to be honest, a lot of guys I was running with at the time that were into that wound up with a lot of the same problems. So, that bodybuilding is a sport, so we have to make note of that as well. But a lot of people use it as a lifestyle, and that's fine. But but in that sense, it's image would be top priority. So health is going to suffer because of that. Now, is there a way that you can bodybuild from a health first perspective? Yes. And then that's where concept and strength training will come in and say, okay, let's run it through a CST filter and see how we can do bodybuilding or fat loss or functional training from a health first standpoint. And so it pays homage big time to mobility. There's a preparation work, proper specific preparation work for effective and efficient, what we'll call strength training work, followed by specific and proper restoration work. And what that does, it's really the root of the system. What you do when you work with programs that are designed in such a way, you work with your recovery built into your program. So again, when I would do bodybuilding, even some martial arts, we would take time off. Sometimes you take a week off, you take 2 weeks off. Training every day in bodybuilding, every single day, is almost unheard of. You do body part splits and stuff like that, but you would never do chest 3 days in a row. In martial arts, we train every single day. But when as long as you are factoring in proper preparation, effective and efficient and specific skill-based work, and then proper restoration, you can train every single day. And you can do a lot of the same things that you would do on Monday. You can do them on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Wow.
And that's because it's built in. We build in the safety valve into the systems. And again, everything is health first. So that's always the defining gavel. That's the judge is, okay, here's the program. Now let's say, look at it. Is it a health first program? Does it pay heed or pay homage to my health first and foremost? If it doesn't, whatever that element is, needs to be removed, altered, and replaced. Okay, so for some people looking at some of the programs, it may look like too little work, depending on what your background is. For others, it may look like too much work. But when you go through some of the programs that are designed under such a manner and really experience the program itself, you kind of start to see the magic of the program, and you see how frequently you can put the body to do some pretty awesome things. And ultimately, that's what it's about. I mean, whatever you're training to be fit for, when you need that fitness, it's not really come with a warning. When you need to use those martial arts skills in the street, you don't usually know about it for a couple of days ahead of time. Unless you're into some CD activity, then maybe. but otherwise, it just kind of happens. And if there's a build up to it, it's a pretty quick build up. If you're crushing your kids in the street and you got to react and pull your kid back because someone's gotten too close to the curb, you don't have time to prepare for that. So, the notion of, I'm just going to rest. I'll work out every other day and rest it, a couple of days in between, or on my days I just sleep, or, do some light walking. Well, no, there's a lot more that you can be doing if you're training with your health first.
Sure.
So.
Oh, good. Could you give us or tell us something about the best advice that your mentors have ever given you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So much good advice. Probably the best thing is just to do what you love. And I mean, that applies to anything, whether it's business, whether it's your chosen activity or sport, whether it's your fitness program. If you're not an athlete or an MMA guy or a fighter, and you're just kind of coming off the couch and doing something, don't just do a thing because you think you should be doing it, because everybody else is doing it, because there's good money in it. Those things can kind of play into your decision-making, but ultimately it's going to be something that you're passionate about. Because then at that point, it's fun. You're enjoying the ride, and ultimately that's what it's about. So whether we're talking about this kind of mobility or bodybuilding versus a health first system or whatever, you got to do what makes you happy. And when you do that, it shows. It shows as a coach. I mean, I'll teach a class. I love teaching a class to 30, 40, 50 people. I'll teach a class to 2 people because I love the material, not because I'm running the type of class that maybe happens to be popular in my market, and we're doing some kind of aerobic thing with big dumbbells because that's what's cool. I'm not going to do that for 2 people, So whatever it applies to, business, working out, your chosen art, your chosen, striking technique, whether you prefer to be a ground guy, you want to be a stand-up guy, you like the hands, you like working in close, or you like the, kick, whatever you enjoy, that's what you need to look into, and that's what you need to put and invest your time and your effort into. So that's probably the best advice. Maybe a bit cliche, but legit.
Right. There's a reason some cliches became cliches. It's just good advice.
Absolutely.
All right, well, this is Levi Wampler with MMA Striking Coach Association. We've been speaking with John Belkewitch, and his website again is day1fitnesssolutions.com. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Ed, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.